Is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good morning, everybody. Live on location. Hot Mic has returned to foggy Sioux Falls. I'm not sure if it can one up what Fargo's got going back this morning, but it is certainly foggy down here, but not inside the Denny Sanford Premier Center, the host of the 2026 Summit League Basketball Tournament. We have returned again, folks, for our fourth straight year of coverage down here in the capital city, at least for basketball in the state of South Dakota here for the next few days. Good morning, everybody. I am Dom Izzo, host of said program. Great to be with everyone again after an exciting day here yesterday, recovering from last night's big win by St. Thomas. They ended the night with a win over South Dakota State. Big crowd, almost 6,500 were in attendance, and many of them went home disappointed. The Jackrabbits lost in the opening round for the second consecutive year, leaving just the Jackrabbit women still playing. We'll see them coming up tomorrow. Both North Dakota State teams advanced on into the semifinal round. We're going to show you that here in just a second, but we are here for what's going to be an intriguing day today. Both South Dakota teams will be playing today. The Coyote women coming up at 2:30. Then the Coyote men will follow right after that at 6 o'clock. So we're intrigued to see what kind of crowd we have here from the fans from Vermilion. Then later tonight, UND will play in the final game on the men's side against Denver, a highly anticipated game to wrap up the opening round of games coming up at 8:30. Now to the Bison side of things. North Dakota State, both the 1 seed in the men's and the women's tournament. And frankly, I would tell you the attendance on the Bison fans, which is something we got into a little bit on social media yesterday, lacked. Let's just be kind about that. We'll address that as much as we can throughout the show here today. Maybe with the anticipation that some are going to come tomorrow, knowing both teams, again, will play tomorrow at noon and at 6. Maybe some are saving up to see if they can both win tomorrow and then come on Sunday. That's a long-standing debate I've had with Bison fans about this particular event because they have no issue traveling for football, but 3.5 hours from Fargo, and I know not everybody is a Bison fan from Fargo, but it's a bridge apparently too far for some that are coming from North Fargo or even from the city limits. So we'll get into that throughout the show here today. We got a packed one. We got a lot of fun guests coming up on our program today, including NDSU AD Matt Larsen will join us in our second hour. Can we pry some football schedule news out of him? We were told soon. It is now 5 days past soon after I heard that on Monday. Still no official update, but we'll see if we can squeeze any nuggets out of Matt about that as we head into the weekend. Also, we're going to be joined by St. Thomas AD. Phil Esten will join us coming up in our second hour. Excited about that conversation. The Tommies, as I mentioned, got a big win last night. They became the only team currently in the Summit League to win a game in this tournament 4 years running. They've been in the semifinals. Obviously, last year they made it to the championship game. They got high aspirations to do that again. Let's start our show, though, with some highlights from last night. The Bison men, the number 1 seed, facing the 8 seed in Oral Roberts, a team that, frankly, got its act together. The Golden Eagles have started playing some better basketball after really scuffling in December and January. Started to play better in February. Remember now, the Bison got pushed by ORU when they played back in early January. This game, I couldn't say it was the most pleasant game, but the Bison made the plays they absolutely needed to make to go on and pick up a victory. Let's show you the highlights from how this went down last night. And Damari Wheeler-Thomas was making shots. That's a big thing for the Bison. Obviously, they were getting steals as well. They forced 17 separate turnovers on Oral Roberts last night. That was the big deal and how the Bison changed the momentum of this basketball game in a way that they just could not recover Oral Roberts, they started making some shots. Trayson Anderson was big early on for NDSU, getting the basket and scoring to give NDSU an early lead. But the fact the Bison were just too strong sometimes down low as well. Wheeler Thomas, we mentioned, had a couple of big shots as well. I look at the point that Travion Carson making his Summit League tournament debut and how ice cold he was in a good way. In fact, he kept making shots for NDSU in the first half, making some steals as well, playing some tremendous defense on Ty Harper. That was critical. They had a quick 5-0 run to start the second half that finally gave the Bison a little bit of breathing room to extend the lead and got up by as many as 7 points at one point. And that early part of the second half, that's when, to me, was the real difference maker. Carson had a big basket. Markai Strickland had his customary monster jam, which he's good for at least one or two of those a game. Emil Skuta gave them some monster minutes off the bench as well. Skuta contributed with a couple of and ones as well in the second half. And then Noah Feddersen, we got to talk about the big man who had 12 points last night. And again, you cannot underestimate his value to this team. He was the sixth man of the year and contributed in a big way. Again, he had 12 points last night. Now, Oral Roberts got this game within 5. Connor Dow had a couple of threes, including a 4-point play that suddenly, all right, this game is alive here. It was 58-53. After that, the Bison defense put the clamps down on the Golden Eagles. They didn't score a basket for 7 minutes after that, and the Bison took control, and they go on and win it. 76-65 is the final. NDSU gets its first Summit League tournament victory since 2023. They had been one and done in this event each of the last 2 years. The loss to St. Thomas a couple years ago, South Dakota last year. The top seed will not be upset this time around as they're into the semifinals, and they'll get the winner of either Omaha and South Dakota. We'll get to that in just a second, but Carson, a really good night. Dow was fantastic at 24 points, but the Bison now have won 25 games. You see on the graphic matches the highest win total since Dave Richmond has become head coach of the Bison. So they are into the semis, and as I mentioned, they'll get the winner of the game coming up later tonight between South Dakota and Omaha. That game will tip at 6 o'clock here inside the Premier Center. South Dakota swept Omaha during the regular season. Remember, the Mavericks are the reigning Summit League tournament champions. They won this for the first time last year. The Coyotes, I don't know how they're doing this with about 6.5 guys that they're playing with so far this season, but they are led by the big man, Cam Fens. Bottom side of the bracket, you saw St. Thomas got by South Dakota State by double digits last night. So the Tommies will get the winner of the late game, and that's between Denver and North Dakota. That comes up at about 8:30 tonight. Denver seems to be the pick du jour, at least talking with some other folks down here. I know Kolpack, I believe, picked Denver to win the Summit League Tournament Championship, led by Tim Bergstrasser, the former Dragon head coach, and Carson Johnson, the NSIC Player of the Year last year, and now the Summit League Player of the Year here in 2026. That will be the final game of the quarterfinals. And then tomorrow, as you see on the bracket, don't forget, the Bison men will play. That game will be on CBS Sports Network at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, with the other game to follow probably about 9:30. Going to be a late night at the Premier Center for that second semifinal. So that's where they stand on the men's side. The Bison are moving on, and St. Thomas moving on. The top two seeds there are into the semifinal round. Now on the women's side, and South Dakota State played the first game yesterday. Jackrabbits dispatched with Kansas City in a game where SDSU got up by as many as 20 points and then were able to salt things away after that. The Bison obviously came in top seed, facing an Omaha team that beat UND on Wednesday in a game that was basically a rock fight. We showed you the highlights of that yesterday, a 49-39 Mavericks win where UND had 3 points at the end of the first quarter. The big story heading in was Jossie Schiller going to play for North Dakota State. We asked Jory Collins yesterday on the show, said it's going to be a game-time decision. We'll see what's going to happen. Schiller was dressed for the game, but ultimately did not play, as Collins said she'd be available to go if we absolutely needed her, but we were hoping that they didn't. So that was the backstory. We didn't see Jossie Schiller play in the game, and then everybody's hearts went in their throats for Bison basketball fans about a minute and a half into the game. We'll show you what happened yesterday afternoon here at the Premier Center in the 1-8 matchup, which was considered obviously the Bison had beaten Omaha each time by 50, and this play right off the hop. Avery Kunin makes a basket, goes down, and cannot get back up. And had to be helped off the floor, obviously stepped on a foot, got taped up, ran a couple of laps behind the scorer's table, and you can see came back into the game. And when she came back in, she was fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, that was Marissa Frost yesterday. She was electric, scoring 28 points. Kunin, you wouldn't even known she got hurt. Hits her patented fadeaway jump shot there, give the Bison up by 8 points. At the end of the first half, the Bison put the hammer down. They scored 6 straight points. They opened up a 22-point halftime lead. Frost was magical last night. She just could do anything she wanted. She had 2 drives and ones. She was 1 point shy of a career high. You see this nifty pat. Kunin's gotten so good at that, of the getting the feed down low and then kicking it out for the 3. The Bison were making their shots, completely opposite of how this tournament played last year for North Dakota State, as NDSU wins again by 50 over Omaha. 87-37 was the final score. Most importantly, though, everybody wondering about the right foot of the Summit League Player of the Year, who came back and missed 1 shot after leaving the game. 87-37 the final. Frost pours in nearly a career high, 1 shy of her career high, with 28 points in the game. You see the stat line on Kunin, 23 points, 7 rebounds. Asp was really good in the first half, 11 points and 8 boards to help out the Bison. Afterwards, Jory Collins said that obviously Kunin was able to gut this through on basically guile and adrenaline. They're going to wait and see. Obviously, today is a big day to see how she responds, how that ankle is, if she's able to play tomorrow. The day off, you cannot underestimate how big a deal this is, folks. The fact that both the Bison men and the Bison women, by virtue of being a top 2 seed and you win, you get that added advantage of having the day off, which for Schiller obviously was a huge deal. And now apparently for Avery Kunin, it could be a monster deal to see if she's able to play coming up on Saturday. The updated bracket. So the Bison are on. They will play tomorrow at noon against the winner of the first game coming up here later today. That's between St. Thomas and Oral Roberts. That game will tip off here at noon inside the Premier Center. Then the second game later today will be followed by a 2:30 between South Dakota and Denver. The winner of that will get South Dakota State in the second semifinal coming up here inside the Premier Center at 2:30. So the Bison obviously swept St. Thomas. They swept Oral Roberts. They lost 1 game. That was to South Dakota State. That's the matchups here. I'm intrigued to see what we see out of that St. Thomas ORU game. St. Thomas has got the size and the height that potentially can give the Bison some fits there. But we will see that one coming up in our first matchup at noon. As I mentioned, Denver and South Dakota is the late game this afternoon at 2:30, with the Jackrabbits sitting there as already winning and the Bison moving on into the semifinal round. But now you have to wonder about their top 2 horses and exactly how they feel, each now dealing with ankle/foot injuries that have happened in the last 6 days after being remarkably healthy all season long. They had the same starting lineup for all the first 28 games of the season. It wasn't until the game against UND where they finally had to change. They put Abby Graham in on senior day. Yesterday, Carrington Asp got the start. I would imagine you see that again one way or the other. If Kunin can't go or if Schiller can't go, I imagine we see Jossie play tomorrow. Kunin is a different story, something that we'll talk about as the show rolls on. We don't have a great angle of it, we'll try and show it to you here again of what went down, because it was, I would say, for the Bison fans that did come to the game yesterday, completely nerve-wracking on how this went down. Obviously, she landed on a foot, and as Jeff Kolpack and I were talking about in our video blog last night, immediately her expression on her face was, this is not good. She couldn't get up, needed assistance to leave the floor from Jory Collins and Dylan Geisert, goes over to the bench, gets taped up, and then, frankly, I'm not even paying attention to the game. I'm sure for the Bison fans who are watching, they're not paying attention to the game. They want to know what's going on with their star player. And she gets taped up by the training staff. They put her shoe back on. Then she decides and asks, hey, can you run a couple mini laps right behind the scorer's table? Again, I'm fixated on this. I'm watching this rather than what's happening in the game. And frankly, the Bison were scuffling early on because, again, for the second game in a row, they're dealing with a situation that they were not prepared for. losing their best player a minute and a half into the game, if that. After Coonan sat for, I would say, another 2 minutes, she checked back in and frankly was phenomenal after that. Now, again, Omaha was an overmatched team, was not a good basketball team. Say what you will. Coonan was 10 of 11, had a couple of blocks as well. She looked herself. Now, how much is that adrenaline? How much to say is, hey, is the ankle okay? That's the question that we're going to try and find out today. They're going to have a practice and shoot around today, and I don't know how much we'll glean out of that. We may not know till about 11:20 tomorrow morning when warm-ups start here at the Premier Center if we're going to see number 22 out there. But crazy situation that happened. But the Bison, it's not like they squeaked by. They won by 50 to get into tomorrow's semifinals. We have a action-packed show here on tap for you today in the Premier Center on this Friday morning. Our guest lineup is brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Couple minutes from now, Ryan Powell will join us from the Summit League office, the Associate Commissioner. He's the man running everything here, of course. We'll talk to RP about getting this tourney back again. Some subtle changes this year, expectations from some crowds as well. Now with South Dakota State's men's team out of it. We'll talk to RP coming up at 9:15. At 9:35, Jeff Kolpack will join me. A bonus Kolpack appearance on a Friday. Jeffy got down here as well with me yesterday. We'll recap those Bison victories. Look ahead to tomorrow's semifinals. We'll see who the Bison will play. Obviously, with the day off, that's a major advantage for both the men and the women with the opportunity, if they can win there, to play for the Summit League titles on Sunday. Our second hour is AD hour. Matt Larsen is going to join us here at 10 o'clock. We'll obviously chat some hoops and some football to see if we can glean anything out of the upcoming Bison football schedule for 2026. It's a hot topic that everybody still wants to know, not just in Fargo, I think, in college football circles. They want to know what that initial North Dakota State FBS schedule is going to look like in 2026. And then at 10:35, Phil Esten will join us, St. Thomas Athletic Director, to give us the lowdown on year one of eligibility for St. Thomas. Obviously, they've already made it to the NCAA tournament in volleyball. They have high hopes that men's basketball is able to do that this weekend. The baseball team is hosting the Summit League tournament this spring. We'll get a recap of the first year of eligibility in football. We saw the Tommies come play the Bison up in Fargo back in November. So that'll be fun to wrap up the show. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Friday morning. Any breaking news that comes down the pipe, we'll, of course, keep you updated on that. Our ticker, you can see, is updated with after a busy day yesterday at the State A in Jamestown and the State B in Minot. All the top seeds advanced. We had no upsets there yesterday. EDC girls basketball saw the teams we expected to advance move on. Horace and Davies on the girls' side are going to play for the EDC championship coming up tomorrow night, and we'll have two state qualifier games there. The boys take center stage at the Shack today, which will be Red Letter Day. There's going to be some great games. We got two loser-out games to start at 2 o'clock, and then the semifinals get rolling later tonight at about 5:30. So looking forward to that, and a crazy, crazy sports weekend. The Spuds won yesterday as well. Moorhead is moving on to the state semifinals. They've got the Cake Eaters tonight. It's Moorhead and Edina playing in the state semifinals. That's late, about 8:30 tonight. So get your energy drink, your Red Bull, whatever you need to stay up to watch the Spuds play tonight at about 8:30, 8:45 after Minnetonka's game with Rosemount to start things. So that's our lineup here on this Friday morning. We'll take our first break. We come back. Ryan Powell will join us. RP from the Summit League offices here on day 3 of the Summit League basketball tournament. Back live to the Premier Center here on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN, and Inforum.com. Back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Live on location here in Sioux Falls at the Premier Center as we're here on Hot Mic on this Friday morning, getting set for day 3 of the Summit League basketball tournament. Games coming up at noon, 2:30, 6, and 8:30 today. We'll wrap up the quarterfinal round and then send teams on to the semifinals. Hopefully we'll have RP joining us here in just a minute. I know he's a busy man trying to negotiate everything and navigate what is a crazy event. As we mentioned a little bit earlier this week, obviously back here in Sioux Falls for the 17th consecutive year, and inside this building for the 11th year. Came here in 2015 after right down the way at the old arena, the Sioux Falls Arena from 2009 to 2014. And what I'm intrigued about today and now going forward for the second year in a row, the Jack Rabbit men, that's the biggest draw next to the Jack women. I'd say it's probably 1A and 1B in terms of the fans that come out to watch each of these two teams play is out. And does that mean, do we see, I think there's still a lot of hardcore basketball fans that will come that bought tickets for all the games, and they'll want to come and check the games out. Now, does that mean we still have like the crowd we had last night? I don't believe so. I think we're probably going to see a pretty steep drop-off in that. Now, especially if Omaha gets by South Dakota tonight on the men's side, then I'm not sure what the men's semifinal attendance is going to look like tomorrow night. For the Bison against Omaha, it'd be St. Thomas against either UND or Denver. That's not necessarily the biggest of draws that we could have on the men's side. We'll see. That South Dakota team has been overlooked this entire year ever since they got basically two guys off the street to help them at the mid-semester break. We saw the Coyotes in Fargo on New Year's Eve, and the Bison won that game handily. And I remember Greg Steeman and I talking about it as the broadcast wrapped up, like, boy, this could be a really long year for USD. Instead, Eric Peterson galvanized that group. They ended up finishing fourth in the conference and had a remarkable run over the last 2 months, frankly, to beat Omaha twice, to beat South Dakota State twice. They hadn't swept the Jackrabbits in over 30 years in men's basketball. It's a big deal there for USD. Their top three are really good. Cam Fenn's, their big man at 6'10", is a load. Uzziah Bunton's a really good player. Jordan Crawford's a really good player. That matchup tonight will be juicy. That one in Omaha with Paul Jobet, who is one of my favorite players to watch this year, the Miami transfer. He dropped 38 when the Mavericks were in Fargo. And I just, the winning attitude that Omaha has, whoever wins that game is going to be a heck of a challenge for the Bison on Saturday night. I really believe that, because that's going to be a tough matchup. You think about it, for NDSU, their two road games against each of those opponents, they won in overtime against South Dakota in Vermillion, and they won at the buzzer against Omaha on a buzzer-beating shot by Damari Wheeler-Thomas to start the league. That's how close those two games were to start the season, or in league play. So whoever ends up winning, that's going to be a challenge there on the Bison side of things. On the women's side, as we mentioned earlier, here he is just flying. He's a big deal, folks. He can just swoop in. We are live. That's the only way we do a show like this. Don't fall on me here. Holy cow. Now we That's the way we work here, folks. He's the man of the hour. He can fly in like this. Are you okay? Take a breath. You're all right. We're okay. We're all right. RP, Ryan Powell, take a breath. You're okay, my man. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me fall over on the chair. That was incredible.
So it's day 3. Is it time to, can you put your feet up now or no? Is this still a hard day today? We got 4 more games today too.
So CBS got here today.
Okay.
So that's always another layer to navigate and figure out. And that was a little bit what I was doing out there and why I came running in and fell on a chair. But no, it's all good. Like it's fun. It gets your adrenaline going. Like it's 9:30 and I'm already going.
Right.
So.
The crowd last night was fantastic, I thought, for that Jackrabbit St. Thomas game. I thought the evening session was pretty darn good. What do we anticipate today? The two South Dakota teams here today. What do you think? And I know there are fans, and you tell me this all the time, that just buy to buy for the whole deal and will come here even if they don't have a team to cheer for.
Yeah, absolutely. This community, like this is the Super Bowl. I say it probably every year, but they just rally around it. They love basketball. It's the premier event here in Sioux Falls, and it's a magnet for basketball fans, and we'll see a lot of different colors in the stands tonight, which is great. And like you mentioned, the Coyotes today, so there'll be plenty of red in there, and it should be good basketball. We had a good game last night with USC and SDSU, and expect some more good ones today.
Well, on the side, I was just thinking about this. All right, we're back live here. RP, you got your bearings back together. I don't know if you broke the internet with us when you were stumbling in like George Costanza there on the Merv Griffin show.
I might have, but hey, if we want ratings, that's what it's all about.
Right?
Hopefully
that's what it's all about. Just a few minutes left here. I know you're a busy man, so give us for the league here. I want to go back to you were talking about earlier, and I visited with Josh Fenton about this yesterday. How much for the league can they you guys be outward about the fact of potentially getting 2 teams into the NCAA women's basketball tournament? Whoever, if it's North Dakota State and South Dakota State playing on Sunday, and whoever doesn't win that game, the champion say, we think we deserve 2 teams to get in this year.
And we think we deserve 2 teams to get in, and we're lobbying as best we can. I talk to NCAA committee reps that we have at least once a month. There's 2 of them that we give, all the information that we can to. And, of course, they have all the analytics. They have all the data. But we have 2 teams positioned well inside the top 50, and I think that's, a good thing to have. And I think, like you said, Sunday's going to be a big game, and I think either way that it goes, that we're going to have a good chance to get both of those teams in.
Is that something you, have a whole packet of info you can give a committee, or how does that normally work?
Yeah, what they want from us is kind of the things that don't show up in the analytics, the things that they don't necessarily have that we probably have a better pulse on for each of the teams, and that can it could be injuries, it could be just trends or things that they've done that they've never done before, like NDSU won 23 straight games, right? Summit League record, never been done before. Things like that on the women's side that are just good little nuggets of information for them to have to maybe that they didn't have access to. So.
You said you're talking with CBS. They're here. They're going to bring in the men's semifinals coming up tomorrow night. Describe that relationship, and I know it's a little bit above your pay grade. Where it goes forward with the league television package after this year?
Yeah, we've had 3 great years with CBS Sports Network. A lot of the same folks have been to the Denny the last 3 years, so that really helps with my job and the consistency of getting them set up and working with Midco in that transition from women's semifinals to men's semifinals. But all said, we've had a great run. We've had 9 regular season games the last 3 years that have been really good, and they've done a great job and given us some windows that we think are nice, and we've been able to take advantage of those. And moving forward, I think both sides would like to keep this thing going.
On the Summit League Network, what have you heard feedback-wise from fans and adapting that for going forward? Yeah,
it's, I think 3 years into it, it's starting to, get a foundation, and people are starting to realize that that's where you can watch Summit League games. And obviously we're one of the few conferences that probably is outside of some other entities. Yeah. So it's, we're doing it for our membership. We're doing it to try to increase revenue at the mid-major level, and we've been able to do that 3 years and look forward to continuing to do that.
Spring sports are obviously going here. We're watching what softball and baseball is doing. I mentioned up the top, with St. Thomas with a chance to make some history on the basketball side. They're going to host in baseball this upcoming year, correct? So how big a deal that is.
Yeah, both softball and baseball are going to be hosted at the University of Minnesota. Facility-wise, just kind of gives you some better press boxes and things like that. Yeah. But looking forward to being in the Twin Cities and bringing our championships there. St. Thomas, like you mentioned, has come into the Summit League and kind of adjusted well and adapted well and are doing a good job across the board in a lot of their sports.
All right, you can go take a breath now here. If that clip goes viral, we apologize in advance on it, but I appreciate all the help making this happen.
If it helps you get viewers, you know how to spell my name, right? and fill in the zeros, right?
Hey, you have an NCAA tournament spot next week? Are you working?
I do. I'll be in Buffalo.
Oh, all right.
Like Buffalo, San Diego, Buffalo. I'd like to go to Buffalo, so they're gonna send me out there.
Love Buffalo. That's great. It's great to see you, man. Thanks for doing this. Be well. All right. Ryan Powell joining us, Associate Commissioner of the Summit League. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to get back on track. Kolpack will join us to wrap up the first hour. Big second hour planned here as well. Back live to the Premier Center in Sioux Falls after this. Welcome back, everybody. Live on location here at the Premier Center in Sioux Falls, wrapping up our first hour on day 3 of the Summit League basketball tournament. Our colleague Jeff Kolpack in without falling over a chair. Appreciate that.
This is twice in 1 week, Dom.
Yes.
Is it a ratings period or what's going on?
I understand. And we didn't give you your proper intro, but you only get that once a week with your customary intro.
I'll overlook it this one time.
Welcome back to Sioux Falls.
Yes,
the Bison basketball.
We're here for more than one day.
I know. Yeah. We've had a lot of times it's been one and done, and we've been out of here the next day. Let me start first. The Jackrabbit men are one and done for the second year in a row. First time a losing season for them in 16 years. There's some challenges going to have for South Dakota State basketball.
Well, there's this cool thing called the transfer portal.
Yep.
So like NDSU, I think, is reinventing itself. Dave has in the last 2 to 3 years on how to build a team in short order. I mean, you get a Markai Strickland, you get a Tay Smith, you get a
Trevion Carson.
I mean, yes. So, help is right around the corner if you can find it.
And that's, I think, for South Dakota State fans, certainly they've had that stud. They've had, whether it be a Douglas Wilson or a Baylor Shireman, a Zeke Mayo, obviously a Mike Dahm. Did not have that on this basketball team.
And I think you saw that yesterday when it was tight at halftime.
Yeah.
And you need that dude in the first 5 minutes of the second half to say, you know what, I'm taking this game over, and I'm taking my team, and then we're heading to the semifinals. They didn't have that guy this year.
St. Thomas does. St. Thomas has a couple dudes and very capable of winning 2 more games and winning this thing. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the basketball teams, I want to get your thoughts on this because you've been down here every year since 2009. And you and I were looking around in the crowd, and there was a smattering of green and gold that were here. And I showed you the poll question that we ran on Hot Mic a couple days ago saying that it's too far for basketball fans or for fans to come down here. Give me your synopsis. Why
it's not cheap. Dom, it's not cheap.
Okay.
I mean, hotels are not $99 around here, for a decent place. It's $200-$300 a night now. Gas, meals. It's just not cheap to pack up on a Thursday night or whatever and stay here for 2, 3, 4 days. You're talking $2-3 grand. Now, Sunday, if both teams are in the title game, then make the trip down and maybe do one night. But you can't overlook just the cost of doing business.
Yeah, I look at though cost with football though is of what I mean. I guess I'll throw that back. That money is of no object there that the fans are willing to spend to go to Frisco, Texas, or to go to Carbondale, Illinois,
they'll do it 1 time or 2 times. I think for them to come down here, and there's no guarantee you're going to win.
That's true.
Head on to
absolutely right.
Saturday and the weekend, and so I just it's a football school. It's called like it is. It's a football school 1A and basketball is 1B.
Yeah, to me, when I look at how great each of these teams have been this year, I thought maybe it'll be tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. They got these teams are playing at noon and 6 tomorrow. There might trickle some more. I think you're right. If each team or one of the teams makes it a Sunday, you may see some more come here. Especially now with South Dakota State's men's team out of it, tickets are going to be readily available on the men's side, right?
Well, the old black market, right? I think the old scalping should be
correct.
Pretty good prices.
There still will be some Jackrabbit fans, I think, that will come, but I think it will not be what we have seen in the past. When SDSU's not in it, it's not the same.
I was kind of hoping for a Sunday matchup with South Dakota State and the North Dakota State men to go to the big dance. Now, that would have been fun.
We've done it before, and those games have been really darn good. Let's recap what we saw last night from the Bison men. Workmanlike win. They won by 11. They got up by 15. Oral Roberts cut it to 5. What did you make of how the Bison men played last night?
Just a very mature team. I thought you never saw any sense of, things are going the wrong way. Even Oral Roberts made that little mini run in the second half, cut it to 5. Who hits the big shot? Your 4th-year player, Damari Wheeler-Thomas.
Correct.
They got a couple 24-year-olds. I mean, Tay Smith is 24. Strickland's 24. Fedderson's been around the block. You just got up and down the lineup. And you can't, Andy Stefanowicz, I know he's a sophomore, but he feels like a senior to me out there, the way he handles himself. So you just got these guys who know how to play the game, and they don't freak out in the moment.
I look at how well Trevion Carson played as well. His first Summer League tournament game was guarding on Ty Harper, who had come in torched, had 47 points last weekend. He was held to 10 and fouled out of the game. Carson was fantastic, as he has been all year defensively.
Yeah, and after the game, he's in the post-game press conference. I go, did Oral Roberts, they came in winning 4 in a row. Do they seem like a scary team to you? And he goes, I ain't scared of anybody. I went, oh.
Yeah.
There's my lead right there.
5-word answer.
There's my lead, yeah.
But I thought, honestly,
but it's true.
What Oral Roberts' coach said afterwards, that all 5 Bison guards could be on the all-defensive team, I thought was eye-opening as well.
Well, and that's what wins. I mean, if they weren't that great offensively.
Correct.
You talk about the Bison men yesterday, shot 40% and didn't feel like that even they were that good.
Yeah.
Andy was off a little bit on offense, but one thing that can't take a vacation at this time of the year is defense.
Feddersen was his usual steady self as well. That transition has just been, you talk about like a chef's kiss for what Dave Richmond did to move Trayson Anderson, who got off to a really good start yesterday, and then put Feddersen off the bench. Man, that has paid off.
I feel like if Trayson Anderson played like 30 minutes yesterday, he would have had 18 points and 12 rebounds. I mean, he just I thought he was really engaged and looked good. But that position, I can't remember what they combined. That position, Noah and
God,
Trayson,
I think for 23, I think Anderson, had 11.
But if you combine that one position, that's pretty good.
Oh, man. All right, so now it'll be either South Dakota or Omaha. The Bison obviously beat both teams twice, but both road games were awfully tight. Is there a desired matchup, do you think, the Bison have?
Oh, I don't know.
Whoever wins that
I don't
tonight?
think so.
Either one's going to be tough.
Well, you'd rather play South Dakota, I think, because Carson Johnson is just fantastic. And you talk about a guy who went from Minnesota State Moorhead to Denver, and now he's just a sophomore. Right? How many zeros, Carson, do you think you're going to get here?
Well, it went up from Moorhead to Denver, and it's going to go up from Denver to wherever
I mean,
it goes next.
Chikari White got $1.6 million or whatever. Carson Williams or Carson Johnson.
Yeah.
Welcome to the $1 Million Club there, son.
South Dakota, to me, is such an interesting story because they're doing this with basically 6 guys, but their top 3 are really good. The 6'10 guy in Cam Fens is going to be a load. If the Coyotes win tonight, that will be the big challenge for the Bison men tomorrow night.
Yeah, sometimes maybe a smaller roster is better. You have no issues with playing time. You have no issues with guys moping on the bench. I'm not playing enough or parents in your ear or anything. You got 6 guys. Let's go.
All right, so you were right next to me yesterday when Avery Coonan went down, and look in her eyes like it looked like she was worried that this was bad. Just give me your impression of what you saw yesterday, and then she came back into the game.
Have you ever sprained an ankle?
I can't say I have.
You're walking Oswego on the Al Roker building.
I can't say I have.
You never tripped and sprained an ankle?
My athletic ability was restricted.
They don't heal overnight.
Right.
It's a matter of the degree of the sprain. And so I don't know. I mean, so I saw the Bison players at Starbucks this morning, a few of them. I'm sure they're thinking, oh, there's that reporter. He's trying to see if Avery's walking. No, I didn't see her this morning, but
good sleuth reporting this morning.
Good sleuth,
Good work.
I think they're going to be at Starbucks. She'll play. I mean, she'll give it a go.
So?
Yes.
I think we talked about it last night. I think it's go time here. You gotta
give it a shot.
Tape it up and go.
You got to give it a shot. But again, I mean, you can play through it. Oh, there it is right there.
Yeah.
That look right there, I thought season done.
Right, and that does not. And then she came in and she had a couple shots. And you mentioned to me she elevated by jumping off that foot. That made you say, okay, how much is he doing this on adrenaline?
Confidence.
And how?
Are you confident on that ankle?
Right.
And so that'll be the big thing. 2 things could not happen, didn't need to happen with NDSU women.
Man.
1 is an injury to Jocelyn Schiller.
Correct.
2 is an injury to Avery Coonan, and it happened.
And it happened within 6 days.
And so South Dakota State's sitting there going, we won 13. We've been to dance 13 times. Sometimes things just work out again.
Now, Schiller didn't play. And what Jory Collins said to us was almost out of precaution that they didn't think they needed her yesterday. Obviously, they didn't. They won by 50.
I watched her warm up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Jossie play tomorrow?
I think so.
I think so, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, but again,
again, it's an ankle, though, right?
I mean, how many times have we in football have we seen?
I know.
If it's a high ankle sprain, you're talking 6 weeks.
It's not right. You just don't come back and play a week or a day later on that. Now, the Bison will play either St. Thomas or Omaha or Oral Roberts. That's going to be the first game coming up here in about an hour and a half. St. Thomas got some length. Alyssa Sand, their big, tall player down low, has given NDSU problems.
Avery can't go.
Correct.
It's going to be an issue.
Right. I mean, Carrington had not started a game. She was the 6th woman of the year. She started her first game.
Well, she's got
Yes.
Yes. You talk about, and looking ahead here, I talk about NIL and Carson Johnson getting money.
Yeah.
How many of these players on the women's side are going to be here next year?
Well, that's the question. Is Jordy Collins? That's the question.
And it's up to the, I'll call out the Bison women's alumni. You need to pony up here. I mean, there's a really good culture, I think, within NDSU women's basketball alums. Yep. But it's not the 80s anymore.
I think they got the 2x4 upside the head when L. Evans left 2 years ago. I think they thought, and I'm going to throw into reading your story.
The collective retained Avery this year.
They did.
Yeah, the collective was big in retaining Avery this year.
That's going to be huge again if they want to get her back for next season as well on that. Now,
Dakota State, NDSU.
Want me to take over the show here?
I just did a drink here.
Yeah.
The opportunity, what do you think both teams get a chance to get in? If the Bison lose, if they placed out the
should. Okay, I'll say that. They should. Now, will they? I probably not. It's just the way things are in the selection process. Now, two teams in Summit on the women's side, much better chance on the men.
It's never happened. It's never going to happen.
Never happens on the men's side. But the women, I mean, if they're getting votes in the poll right now, are you telling me they're not one of the best 68 if they lose one more game?
Here's the hard
Are you telling me that?
But if you lose to South Dakota twice in like a 10-day span, I don't know how good that looks. That's the thing I would caution on it.
But it's South Dakota State.
I know. But
you got to get past tomorrow for sure.
Yeah.
And then get to Sunday before this is even
No
a
doubt.
discussion.
Thanks for the time. Appreciate it. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Need to wipe out on the chair.
No, you're all right. Stay upright for us. Right. Jeff Kolpack joining us here at the Premier Center. That'll wrap up the first hour. We'll break. We come back. Matt Larsen going to join us, NDSU Athletic Director, check out the two Bison wins. And how about that Bison football schedule? Can we get some nuggets out of him? We'll do that when hour 2 of Hot Mic begins live on location right after this.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 live on location here inside the Denny Sanford Premier Center on day 3 of the Summit League basketball tournament. North Dakota State's basketball teams are moving on, both playing in the semifinals tomorrow. The Bison women will play at noon. The Bison men will play at 6. Great to see Athletic Director Matt Larsen with us. Kolpack and I were just joking. We've had a few trips where it's been one and done, so it's nice to see the Bison sticking around for a couple extra days here.
It is. I think that was kind of our conversation, our staff, the last day or so, because it was like the drive of shame going back home after the first day yesterday. And I always say, I truly believe your first.
That's tough, right?
Your first games in the tournament, I think, are always the hardest. Regardless of your seed, I think they're always the hardest. And so to get past both of those and then have the day off now today is huge for both those programs, especially, I mean, just this time of year, extra day of rest. And, we have we're banged up a little bit on the women's side, so it's good to get that extra.
All right, so Kolpack and I were talking about this, I think, before you got here, and I know you and I have had this conversation of trying to get the message across for people to make the trip down here. What have you heard, I guess, feedback-wise from fans saying, because I know you've put different forums and different things out there to say, why don't you come? What have you heard back on that?
Well, it's been interesting. It's been years past. Wow, we went to Frisco this year. We spent our, we didn't do that this year. So to me, there should be some disposable income to get down here. And I just look at it as, and I truly, and I've said this to you, you've said it a million times, everybody, it's an unbelievable weekend.
It's really cool.
I mean, it really is. The from the environment to the venue, to the quality of competition. And if there's a year that we would need our fans to be down here, it's this year. I mean, both these teams are playing at a really high level. They're fun as heck to watch. There's great opportunity, and we've seen that support over the course of the last month and a half at the Shack. Well, why not translate it down to here? Because it has a huge impact. So I'm hopeful. I know a lot of people that I've talked to are planning on coming down either tonight or tomorrow. Okay. We have a Team Makers event here locally tonight.
I was going to ask you about that.
From 6 to 8 at the Lodge, and it's kind of, hey, come one, come all. So looking forward to seeing some Bison fans that are down here. But to me, it's the old adage of why wait to see if we get to Saturday, right? I mean,
I'm with you.
I mean, revisionist history. We could talk about what happened in football this year. So I just. The element of there's nothing different. You talk to our student athletes, whether it's football, basketball, you name it. When they run out of the tunnel and they see a bunch of green and gold in the stands, that's an unbelievable.
Welcome back, everybody, here live on location in Sioux Falls at the Premier Center, back with NDSU AD Matt Larsen. We're fixing all of Division I athletics here during the commercial break, so I think we got everything wrapped up there, right? We're all good?
No, we're good. I mean, just some minor issues to kind of work through, but we're good.
So, obviously, this could be a really potential monster weekend for basketball, historic weekend, frankly.
Yeah.
I guess try not to get the cart too before the horse, but just planning-wise, what this could mean 2 weeks from now, how big a deal could that be here?
Oh, it's it's with all the stuff we've been going on the last month and a half. I mean, to me, that's the most exciting part of this. Is, you know, if we're booking travel here this next week for 2 programs. I mean, that's pretty historic when you think about just the ability to have 2 programs playing at this level. It's just, you don't see it a ton across college athletics. So I mean, just and the journeys of both of those programs very, very different to get to kind of this same spot where you look at the women, they've slowly been growing, and Jory's done an unbelievable job. I was kind of telling him the other day, and we told this when we hired him, is, you know, I think back to when I first got here, and you know, it kind of came full circle at the UND and the South Dakota State game where, you know, the place is packed.
Yes.
And I think back to those first years, there's 150 people in the stands, and I'm hoping we don't lose by 30. And just to see where that program has evolved to, and it's not like we're all senior heavy either. We have a lot of underclassmen coming back, and then just the job that Dave has done in rebuilding this team from last year. And I think more, I mean, anybody can rebuild a team, but finding the right parts that work together and go together, and just high character, quality kids that, you know, just kind of came together 8 months ago and are just playing really, really well.
A couple things on, obviously, with the Mountain West move and the contract written in there about full membership in the league. How is, frankly, I'll just ask, how is the relationship with the Summit League after the announcement to go to the Mountain West in football?
You know, it's actually been really good. I mean, I think a lot of the ADs, regardless of whether they're a football playing school or not, I think we have good enough relationships. I think they all knew and realized that this was an aspirational thing that we wanted to do. So I don't think it caught by any surprise there. I do think, you know, that language probably, I don't want to say it caused heartburn, but you just in an 8-team league, you know, there's always always worry about, hey, if somebody was to leave. But I've reaffirmed, I said, our intention for the long haul is to be in the Summit League. It makes sense for all of our sports. We compete at a high level. We compete for championships, and so I think they understand that. I think that helped. But as a league, we have to continue to look at, okay, what are membership opportunities, how best to grow, but be really thoughtful and make sure we're adding value if we grow. And so I think overall it's been good. I feel like I have really good relationships across the league.
The President's Council is meeting now. You've been in those meetings before. Can you draw the curtain back, and how much is realignment, expansion discussed in a meeting like that's going on today?
It's a lot. I mean, I think you get the presidents usually together in person twice a year. It's usually now, and then usually we'll do it near the end of the year. The ADs are in there, and so those are really meaningful. You have to make sure you're making the most of that time when you have a captive audience. Presidents' schedules are ridiculously busy, so when you have them all in a room focused, so a lot of it is membership. It is strategic things that we're looking. How do we move the league forward? Whether it's media contracts, whether it's this event this weekend is a big driver for brand, for revenue, for the league, and so those are usually the central points that we're talking about with that group. And how do we move the league forward? How do we generate more revenue? And more importantly, how do we stabilize and strengthen our league?
I know I visited with Josh Fenton about this yesterday, and I know there was some consternation maybe from the other 4 member schools when the scheduling agreement came out between the Dakotas and the Montanas and Idahos. And I know that was done separately than the league.
It was.
So what I said to Josh, like, the messaging wasn't great from the league on that point to say, okay, those schools did it on their own. And I guess my question is on that is, does it seem to you that not everybody is one happy league right now?
Yeah.
It's perception looks the other way right now.
Yeah, I would say I think sometimes those things get blown out of proportion a little bit. I mean, I've had a chance to talk to just about every AD, whether it's a Dakota AD or it's one of the other ADs, and I think we've talked all along is right now we feel like we have 8 really strong members, and we make sense geographically. There's a lot of alignment, and even though in a lot of ways we're very different institutions, there's also some value in that, and I think the leagues recognize that, or the tough part is when it comes down to basketball scheduling is probably one of the hardest things that we do, because it's really hard, especially for us geographically, and that's where we've kind of banded together as the Dakotas from a scheduling standpoint, because it's really hard to get teams to come up here. You know, some of the other schools in our league are in major metropolitan areas, major airports. It's easier to get to, where it's just hard here, and so we've worked really closely forget about the South Dakota schools for a second. We've worked really closely with UND on scheduling for all of our sports, trying to get a team, okay, if they'll come in here, they'll play us, they'll play UND, so maybe we can make that work. And I think that's where we have to get creative. And so this was, I think, the Big Sky working with the Montana and the Idaho schools who have very similar issues compared to their league, members. I think just trying to work together, say, hey guys, how do we figure this out? How do we help each other, like schools? And so that's where that came from. And just like anything else, sometimes things are, I think, taken out of context, and it just kind of gets run with and get blown up. But I think, again, I have great respect for all the ADs in our league, and I think there's some really strong alignment with where we're trying to go as a league.
Speaking of scheduling, you got a football schedule yet?
We're like this close.
Really?
We're this close. Yeah, we really are. And I know I don't want to. I've probably told you, oh, next week, soon it's coming. But I literally we're going to have a schedule next week.
Okay.
And it's going to get released at some point next week. We finalized ours. There's a lot of moving parts when you're trying to rework, 9 other schools in addition to us. So there's just a lot of moving parts, but I feel like we're at the goal line here, and so we'll look to see something next week.
All right, so if I could be specific here, 6 home games?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
How big a deal was that to make that happen?
Well, it's huge. Well, part of it is from an FBS perspective, you have to have 5 FBS home games. So that's going to be important as we move forward anyway. Just financially, our model has always been to add greatest value, deliver greatest value to our fans is having 6 home games. That's always been critical. And then also just from a home field advantage, we think the more teams we can get in the Fargo Dome, that's going to help, our opportunity for success. So I think that part we feel really good about. So it's a balanced schedule, 6 home, 6 away.
Any holdovers from the old schedule?
No.
Okay. And that was just how it ended up working out?
Yeah, I mean,
I know you thought maybe there's a chance maybe one of the FCS teams.
We were hopeful, but again, I think for those schools, and I get it, when there's 6 months out for them too, and they're trying to reshuffle some things and just look at, some already have an FBS school. We would be a second FBS school, although I argue it's the same team we're rolling into, but regardless. So I get it. I mean, I understand that part of it. So, but fortunately, I mean, just really good relationships around the business. Dave Brown helped out, but calling in some favors with some good friends over the years to help us out, and I think we feel really good about where we are.
Is there a Power 4 on the schedule for this upcoming year?
There's not.
Okay.
And I think we knew going into this year that was going to be really hard. But that is, as we've shared, I mean, our goal moving forward is we want to have a Power 4 on there every year if we can, and that's certainly our goal. I know we have Oregon in 28. And I think that looks good in terms of keeping that.
Okay.
So feel really good keeping that game, even though we're now FBS. We've had some
for 2028.
As of right now. Well, there may be some movement, but I think at least in terms of keeping it on the schedule, we feel good about.
Okay.
So we've had some good preliminary conversations with them. But yeah, that's our goal is always going to be Power 4-1 because from a scheduling perspective, from a revenue generating. And I think just an opportunity for our fans and, a barometer for us to measure where our program is.
So when you saw the list of opponents, home and away, and obviously fans are going to be elated to see where they're going, what did you as an athletic director take away from the 8 opponents that you have for conference games?
I think the biggest thing I just took, I mean, again, we knew going into it, hey, those are the teams we're playing, right?
Yep.
I just, when it actually came out and you look at just the difference in geography now, I mean, it's different. I know talking with Jeff last year when you look at how many miles we traveled last year, right? I think we're going to surpass that this year.
Yep.
But again, I go back to just the different markets, the new fan bases, the new venues, the new teams. I think that's the part that I think we're most excited about is just a lot of new, which I think is good, and again some really quality opponents.
Well, and that's the thing. The competition level, Matt, is what I'm looking at. Yeah, the destination, Vegas, great. Honolulu, amazing. Albuquerque, really neat. Colorado Springs, but the level of teams you're going to be playing, and then coming into the Dome, I think again fans have to understand there's some really good football teams, not just the conference games, the non-conference you're going to have coming.
Because I agree. I think most fans, they focus on where we're going.
Where we're going.
I like the fact that, hey, we're going to bring some really good teams into the Fargo Dome.
Yes.
And, I think get to show off one of the best college football atmospheres, that's out there. So that's the part I'm excited about is what, the course of the next 5 years, what are the teams outside of our league, too, that we're going to have, coming into the Fargo Dome.
For scheduling for 26, has this helped you for 27? Like, have you been able to maybe cross some I's, dot some T's?
It has a little bit. I mean, we're going to try as best we can, especially when you're talking non-conference group of 6 schools, as much as we can to try to do some home and homes if we can.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work out, and it's not always, we play them this year, we'll play them next year or whatever. Sometimes it gets pushed out a little bit, but that'll be our hope, because that just helps. It helps this year, and it also helps next year or 2 years from now. So that'll be our goal.
The Vegas game in 27, that's obviously against Montana State. It's an FCS school. What's your thought? At least, again, it's March of 26, and I know things change with the wind. Is your goal to play that game still?
Our goal is to play it. I think for a couple of reasons. I think, one, it's something that our fan base is pretty excited now. We're going to be going to Vegas pretty regularly now. But no, I think it's something that we want to keep. One, it's a pretty good financial.
It's over $1 million, obviously. Yes.
There. And so that's, as we look at transitioning as successfully as possible, finances play a big part in that. So yeah, we're looking to keep that. We're working really closely with the league, because there are some media partner things that we have to kind of get across the finish line to make sure that
and that's
we're
an
able
ESPN
to do it.
game control.
Correct.
The OMAC game.
Correct.
I want to ask, I'm interested now for fans, we're trying to educate them. They knew, Matt, you full well know, everything that was happening in FCS. They knew teams, they knew big storylines, they knew what was coming down the pipe. Now it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
For you, what would you tell fans in terms of either legislation, in terms of, hey, this is a big story, you better start paying attention to it? What would you tell for fans, like, these are the things you better start paying attention to now?
Well, I think there's a
million things you could pick from.
Yeah, I think college football fans are usually pretty engaged, but I mean, again, if now there's some things, what's going to happen with bowls moving forward? Really important.
Talked about that yesterday.
Really important to us now. College football playoff expansion. Is it going to stay at 12? Is it going to 16? Is it going to 24? And then what's the group of 6 opportunities to get in there? Those things, are critically important. I think the other thing to follow too is, at the highest level is, what's happening with any sort of congressional engagement.
Yes.
What's happening with student athletes staying amateurs or going to employees. Those things are going to directly impact, and a lot of that's going to be driven by FBS football. And before, it was always whatever happened at FBS would maybe trickle down to FCS. Well, now we're on the front line.
Right, correct.
And so that's going to change, I think. So those are all the things that we're paying way closer attention. I'm fortunate to, one, be on the D1 cabinet, which is huge, but also on an FBS oversight working group as the FCS member. But I'll continue my time in there. I think it's good to add perspective of FCS, which, again, I'm still very, very fond of that level. But then also, kind of looking forward to FBS. So, but those are the things that now, as a fan base, we're going to have to pay a little closer attention to, because it's going to impact us way more directly than it was before.
Trying to put politics aside, is there anything out of this presidential roundtable that's happening today with President Trump that's something that to follow or pay attention to today?
I think the biggest thing where we need their support is, here's another small example. So you had, I think it was the state of Mississippi, look to pass a law that NIL payments now aren't taxable. Now that's, you could say that's a advantage now for schools in the state of Mississippi, and I think that's kind of been our issue. When you don't have some sort of
universal rule,
national governance, it makes it really, really hard to have somewhat of a level playing field. And so that's where I think we've asked Congress, and hopefully what comes out of this meeting with the president helps drive, is that we do need some level of antitrust protection. And again, not widespread, but in certain areas to be able to enforce our rules, particularly from an eligibility standpoint, but also to have some sort of national standard that preempts state laws, so you can't have states going and trying to do things just to give advantages to their schools. Otherwise, I got to get out to Bismarck and start, lobbying ours to, hey, can we do this now too, right?
Yes.
And to me, that's more of a waste of time. Let's get a standard in place. So I think those are the things I think we're hoping that'll come out of that. And I think the one thing President Trump, values, and I think a lot of people in Congress do, is college athletics is really special. And I know it's going to change, it's evolving, but how do we still make sure it doesn't go off the rails for good?
It's crazy times. Just trying to, again, that's why I asked you that, just trying to follow what should we be paying attention to? Because I think a lot of us knew FCS, what's important, what's to follow there. This is a whole new deal, and there's so many tentacles. We talked about the Ross Dellinger story about the future of the bowls. Now that directly affects what's happening with North Dakota State.
It does. We've just in the short time we've been in the Mountain West now, conversations we've had about our bowl relationships as a league.
Yep.
We lost one last year, trying to replace it with another one, and what that looks like. And I think even going down the road of, does bowl eligibility look the same 5 years from now as it does today? So I think there's a lot of moving parts, and the bowl system has been phenomenal for decades and decades. I think it's also going through an evolution now a little bit, and but I still think, postseason opportunities are really important. I think for a lot of schools, you ask, that maybe the CFP isn't, attainable.
Yeah.
But bowl games are attainable, and that's a way to engage your fan base and continue and play against other, national schools.
All right, a couple last things here on going back to Jeff's story that you wrote earlier this week on the waiver. Is it too simplistic to say you still really don't know where to send the waiver to, and who to address it to?
So I think we're in a little bit better place now. We've done a little research since I've talked to Jeff, but I think it'll actually originate through the FBS Oversight Committee.
Okay.
Although the Division I cabinet is the one that actually is going to make the decision.
Okay.
And so, which is, I think, is good, because we're trying to streamline things. We're trying to give greater decision-making opportunities to these oversight committees, because so many sports are different. And so I think vetting it through, and then if there's support from the FBS oversight, I think that helps once it goes to the D1 cabinet. And so I think that'll be the starting point, and then make its way up to the D1 cabinet.
I had a couple emails into the show on the Akron deal, which I know was an APR deal, but they got an appeal granted. That's apples and watermelons, right, compared to what you were trying to do.
It is a little bit, I think, and I didn't read it specifically into their waiver request, but what I would gather, and the more that I've talked to Coach Polasek, if we're postseason ineligible for 2 years, it's going to be really, really hard to retain players. And to me, so Akron could say the same thing. Okay, if we're going to be postseason ineligible, we're trying to fix our APR, right? And a big part of APR is retaining student athletes. Well, if they know they don't have an opportunity to play postseason, the likelihood of being able to keep them, especially because they can transfer and play right away, becomes a lot harder. I think people are starting to recognize the rules that at certain point had a real purpose. The purpose doesn't meet the intent anymore. And so that's the part I think that has to change. And so I do think there are some similarities, even though one's tied to academics, this is tied to the reclassification, but I do think there are some similarities that hopefully will help, I think, move our waiver forward.
Last thing, going back to schedule, with the Hawaii game on there, that makes you eligible to potentially play 13 games. Are you doing 13 or just 12?
We're going to do 12.
Okay, so that means 2 bye weeks then, correct? Okay.
Correct.
And then a week 0 game would be part of that, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And part of the goal there is I think we talked, when you play Hawaii or at Hawaii, it opens up week 0, which in this year I think more than any just made a lot of sense for us. Which
likely week 0 is going to be week 1 starting next year?
That's the way it's going. It already is for FCS, right? But I think it won't be long, and probably next year, 27, it'll be there for FBS too.
Appreciate you coming by. Thanks for not tripping over the chair. We've heard this is a little hurdle here today.
I know.
And,
I was trying to be athletic.
I appreciate that. We'll see you back here tomorrow, okay?
Awesome.
Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Matt Larsen joining us, NDSU Athletic Director here. Bison basketball playing in the semifinals tomorrow here at the Premier Center. We'll break. Final half hour of Hot Mic live on location in Sioux Falls. We're back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Final half hour on this Friday morning, live inside the Premier Center in Sioux Falls, getting ready for day 3 of the Summit League basketball tournament, about 90 minutes away from the first game between St. Thomas and Oral Roberts. The winner of that will play North Dakota State tomorrow. It's great to have St. Thomas AD Phil Esten joining us. We've had Phil on the show several times over Zoom. It's great to do this in person. Bud, how you been?
It is good to do this in person. Great. You know, it's a great drive over from the Twin Cities, easy, and we've got a few fans that followed us over as well, and the weather's cooperated this year, which is good, so we're happy to be in Sioux Falls.
Tell me about last night. I following the end of that game. Obviously, it was an emotional environment. It was a road game for you guys last night. To go out and pick a victory like that, how big a deal was that?
Yeah, you know, you get the 2 seed, and then you look across the bracket and you see yourself playing against South Dakota State, and, you know, it'll be a home game for them. And, you know, they're the 3rd highest net ranked team in the conference. And so it's not, you know, none of these games are easy, but that one stacks up a little bit differently. But, you know, as we said off the air, Dom, I'd rather play in an environment like that than in an environment where there's nobody there. And for our guys to be able to play in front of a crowd that is really, really loud and enthusiastic and in the game. And there were moments, particularly in the first half, where it feels like it's a home game for South Dakota State. But again, we'd rather play in moments like that than when there's nobody in the gym, and our guys played pretty well.
Tell me about this year, because when we first talked, when the move happened, the 2027 was going to be the year. And obviously everything moved up now. How has that changed everything at the school, knowing that this is now the first year of postseason eligibility?
Yeah, actually, when we first started in this transition, we were told it was a 12-year process, right? Yes. You've got to spend some time in Division II and then make your move to Division I. So to have done it in 4, I think it's a testament to the university's resolve around really why we made the move, and then our staff and our coaches have really kind of dug in on this thing, and we've demonstrated that we can operate like a Division I program. And, this year now coming into it, the stakes are a little bit higher. But I'll tell you, I've been proud of our coaches in that the one thing that hasn't changed is their approach to culture, and they're process-oriented. I think we've learned over the last 4 years, because we've had to, that culture matters a lot. And that's helped to build the foundation for us in success, and not just basketball. But, our volleyball team this year was the first team to make it. And we had won 5 conference championships prior to this. And I think it's largely because of how we build these programs and what we're looking from a recruiting standpoint, from a staffing standpoint, and that continuity. And I talk about alignment a lot with our community. That's been a really important piece of this.
So now, looking ahead here, potentially what could happen on Sunday night, how big a deal, the NCAA basketball tournament, that is the creme de la creme. That is number one. North Dakota State went through this, their first year of eligibility, and they made it, and how big a deal that was. Have you let your mind go there yet, if the potential of it happens Sunday night?
I try not to. A little bit you have to, because some of the NCAA prep stuff has to happen now almost. And so you can't help but think about it a little bit, because you're in the planning stages. But I'll tell you what, we're in this business because we're competitive people. And sports is normally a zero-sum game. You win and you lose, or you don't, and so that's a big part of it. And for to think about the competitive piece and what that might mean for us and what it represents really makes me proud as an alum. I'm an alum of St. Thomas and as the athletic director. But even more so, one of the reasons we made this move, Dom, as you know, was from a visibility standpoint, enrollment stability. And this is really a testament to that. And this could be a demonstration of why we made the move in the first place and what it can mean for the university. We've got so many great things happening on our campus from an outcome standpoint, whether it's graduation rates, job placement rates, average starting salary. I'll put our stats as a university up against anybody's in our region. And so this is an opportunity to tell that great story if we have an opportunity with that platform. And to spread our impact a little bit, Dom. So that's exciting.
Location. I always boil down to where you guys are located is just an inherent advantage that nobody else has. How do you play into that as an athletic director, as a school?
Well, I tell you what, the Twin Cities, I think we can boast a couple of different things. Number one, we have as many Fortune 500 companies per capita as anybody in the country. But then our alumni are omnipresent in the Twin Cities, right?
Totally.
We have, 90% of our alumni are in the Twin Cities area, so or maybe 85% of our alumni, and so that allows us to engage in experiential learning differently than some others can. And so internships and practicums and that experiential learning that we have with the relationship with our alumni in the Twin Cities and business and industry is really helpful. And so you think about not just being transactional in this business, and we could talk about that for an hour, but how can we provide this transformative experience for our students and our student athletes that means engaging with alumni in our Twin Cities? And then lastly, I've talked about this before too, we're in a very good competitive professional marketplace. And so that really kind of raises the level of expectations from a fan experience perspective. And so how can we deliver on that? And so it's a great sports market and something that I think we can recruit to.
Let me talk here. We got to see your football team up in Fargo in November, and I know the experience you wanted to get out of that. Going forward, you're going to play North Dakota this coming year up in Grand Forks. Those kind of games,
are they beneficial to your football program? Obviously, you have a chance to win in the Pioneer Football League, and you've already won a Pioneer Football League championship. Scheduling those games, you want to keep doing that against Missouri Valley teams, and I know you want to get obviously a Power 4 game, I imagine, on the schedule sometime.
Yeah, from a Power 4 perspective, that's tough for us as a non-scholarship Division I FCS school, because that wouldn't necessarily count in the calculus for them to become bowl eligible as a Division I win yet. I hope that changes at some point, and maybe it will. But you know what? I like those rivalries with I'm going to say the Missouri Valley Football Conference, but the Summit League, right? And so another example of that, we also play non-conference football games against some of the teams that we play hockey against in the CCHA, so Northern Michigan and Michigan Tech and some of those teams. And so I think it allows for kind of fan following because it's a familiar opponent. It's drivable for us. The economics make some sense for us, of course. And I do think it's good for our fans. And it's the best conference in college football, or among the best. You can argue, I suppose, that in the Big Sky. I'm on the FCS Championship Committee with Bill Chaves. The two of us represent our conferences. But I think it's good for us to line up against competition like that. We do it in basketball, we do it in hockey, we do it in softball and baseball and golf and soccer and everywhere, and we should do that in football too.
I mentioned earlier in the show, you're hosting both softball and baseball this year after winning the Summit League championships last year, eligible now for that. How exciting is that a deal for the opportunity to do that this spring?
Right now we can say that we're kind of running the show from a diamond standpoint. And, it's the first school in the history of the Summit League to have won both.
Yes.
And we're going to host those off campus at the University of Minnesota. And I'm, again, really just proud of the way that those two sports have represented St. Thomas. As we've made this move, they've done it with maybe less than some others in the league have, Dom. And, a long, really rich and proud history in those two programs. They've both won two national championships at the Division III level. And, of course, as a baseball alum, I've got a little bit of added pride there. But, it's going to be a great opportunity for us to showcase the Twin Cities. For us to be able to play at home, it's a big deal. Even if it's
awesome.
not, even if it's not on campus. Seabird has got so much history, and Jane Sage Coles is a really great venue as well. And hopefully at some point, if we can host this again in the future, we'll be able to do so on campus. But for now, it'll be good to welcome people to the Twin Cities in general.
I've had you on this long, and I haven't talked about the arena, so let's do it now. How transformational? I talked to you when you got the approval to do it. Now it's done. You had a whole season there with hockey and basketball. How transformational? Was it even beyond what you thought it could be?
It's really been kind of a community gathering place this year. And I would say from a buzz perspective in the Twin Cities, it's become the place where people want to be.
Because I saw a ton of non-St. Thomas fans go just to check it out.
Yeah, and it's become kind of that buzz in the Twin Cities. Let's just go check out Lee and Penny Anderson Arena. And I haven't heard feedback. I've only heard positive feedback, I'll say. And the traffic and parking situation is something we're going to continue to manage. But the arena itself is really fantastic. And again, I'll say, having been across the country at a number of different institutions, it's one of the best facilities in the country. It's not the biggest by any means, but that's not what we need.
You weren't going for that.
Yeah. Exactly. And so I think it's intimate. I think it transitions well from hockey to basketball. I think either one provides a really good student-athlete experience and fan experience. And I do think it's exceeded a lot of expectations for people. And it's also, from our campus community, become a really good asset as well, whether it's job fairs and commencements. And, we're hosting the WCHA Championship this weekend. We'll host several high school commencements at the end of the spring, which will bring a lot of people to campus that otherwise may not have been on our campus.
Is there a section hockey opportunity maybe there down the road?
We actually had one, a couple weeks ago, sold out.
Nice.
St. Thomas Academy played Rosemount, and it was a sold-out crowd.
That's fantastic.
Crazy, right? I mean, the hockey in the state, So I think we'll see some hockey sectionals. I think we'll see some basketball sectionals.
Okay, that was my other question.
In the future too. It's really all about whether or not the timing and the schedule matches up, right? That conflict is pretty complex from a scheduling standpoint. And so we just have to manage through that a little bit. But it's been good.
Well, one of the tenets, obviously, in there is women's basketball. You're going to have an opening there. Obviously, Ruth Sin has announced her retirement.
That's right.
unbelievable career that she's had. That's, to me, Phil, on the outside, a highly desirable job. Have you already gotten contacted over that, and what do you expect the hiring process to go there?
Yeah, I think it's a really good job.
Yeah.
I think Ruth has done a nice job to build a good foundation there and a good program, a great history. This isn't something that's a rebuild by any means.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of pieces coming back in the future. So I think it's an opportunity for somebody to walk into a really strong situation. And I think it's a really, really good job. We have had contact with a couple of people. Yep. At this point, we're in the intake mode a little bit, and we've got a lot of agents reaching out to us, a number of individuals reaching out to us. We've begun a couple of conversations, and I would hope that we could have this wrapped up, frankly, before the transfer portal opens.
I was going to say, you got to have it done, right?
Season.
Pretty darn quick on that.
Right.
2 other questions here for go. What do you get asked more often? When are you going to play the Gophers in basketball, or when are you going to the Big East?
Yeah, those are the top two. And
which one do you get more?
Well, probably the Big East question,
really?
To be honest with you.
The Gopher one.
Wow. The Gopher one.
I always hit you about the Big East, so I know I'm about 5 of those I get you about every year.
Yeah, well, that's 5 of 100. And I'll say this about that. I've long believed and still do that the grass is greenest where you water it. And we really enjoy the Summit League, and I think there's phenomenal regional rivalries when North Dakota State, North Dakota, and South Dakota State, and South Dakota, and Omaha, and Denver, and Oral Roberts, and Kansas City, I think I just named them all, come to town. There's a lot of alumni from those schools in the Twin Cities that come out.
The Dakotas when they come in.
For sure,
yeah. Absolutely.
Well, sometimes there's more of them than there are of us, for goodness sakes. But I tell you what, it's actually really nice to see that kind of a rivalry develop, and so there's no reason, to mess that up at all. And I think all of us are in a position right now. I think if you ask anybody, we're trying to position ourselves to be value add, regardless of the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And so if kind of musical chairs starts in the future and something happens where we're forced to make a decision, how are we in a position to add value to somebody down the road? But for now, I tell you what, I think the Summit League is a great conference. I know there's a lot of speculation around its stability, but I think it's really stable.
Okay.
We're really committed to it, and I think others are too. And so I think we can make it stronger as we go forward. As far as the Gophers are concerned, I'll just say this. We'll play them. And I get it. I certainly understand where they're coming from. Johnny has always said, we'd love to play Minnesota.
Yes.
And we'll just see how that develops over time. Nico is a great coach. And he's done a really nice job in the transition this year with his first year. And, I'm hopeful that after a year or two, we're able to find a way to play. But I certainly respect and understand where they're coming from a scheduling standpoint, too.
2 last things, and I really appreciate doing this. I know you got a game coming up here in just a little bit. I get a ton of emails, especially on when North Dakota State was still in the FCS, about St. Thomas's football of going to the Missouri Valley Football Conference, and I know that's not been a high priority for you. Can you just address that, because you're the authority on it? Has that come across your desk of going to scholarship football at all?
Yeah, that's another question. That's probably maybe number 3 on the list.
Yep.
And again, I'll tell you, we love the Pioneer Football League.
Yeah.
We think it's a really good league for us. It's a great fit. A lot of like-minded schools in that league, schools that look a lot like St. Thomas across the country. And so it gives us an opportunity to value football, play football at the Division I level. But as we travel to Southern California and upstate New York and Central Florida and Indianapolis, we're all over the place. But it gives us a chance to engage with our alumni more strategically, maybe recruit students at large more strategically, and really take advantage of earned media in markets that we may not otherwise be able to take advantage of in those spaces. And so it's a league that we can compete in, as we've proven. Glenn won that league in our second year, and frankly, we're the winningest program in that league since we've been in it. If you kind of look across the 5 years, and so proud of what we're doing there. So our intention is to be competitive in that PFL. There's an AQ coming out of the PFL.
Yep.
And sometimes you go into these leagues, holy smokes, you go into the MVFC or whatever league we'd go into, and you go from first to where? And it's kind of a gauntlet schedule. Yep. So Coach Caruso does just a fantastic job with player development, player retention, overall student-athlete experience. And so the PFL is our home, and we like it there, yeah.
Last thing, and I was getting on Bison fans to start the show because I'm wondering where they're at.
Do you anticipate more coming from the Twin Cities as this weekend goes along? Obviously, with the women playing today, if they win, they're playing tomorrow. You already know the men are playing tomorrow night.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Good question. I can't tell you how many people I've heard from that have said the weekend is when we're going to come.
Okay.
You know, it's this thing starts on Wednesday night, and I get why it starts on Wednesday night, and it's tough for some to make that trip over and stay for 5 days. But we've got a lot of people that are going to make the trip over this weekend. And as I said earlier, it's an easy drive. You at 169, turn right on 90, and you're here. And so I do think you're going to see a really strong Twin Cities contingent, St. Thomas contingent here. And hopefully we're loud. I don't know that we'll be as loud as the South Dakota State fans were.
We were loud last night.
Yeah.
The people that were at the game last night were definitely vocal. So I anticipate that'll happen here today.
Great environment, though.
And if the Tommy women win, their matchup with North Dakota State coming up tomorrow, which will be fun to see.
A lot of fun, yeah.
Great to see you, bud. Thanks so much for making time, all right? Have a great time. We'll talk soon, okay?
Sounds good. Roll time. Thanks.
Phil Esten joining us, St. Thomas Athletic Director here. We'll take our final break. We'll come back. Security's getting ready to roll. They're going to kick Cordell out, so we got to wrap up our show. We'll do that when we come back on Hot Mic live in Sioux Falls after this. All right, wrapping things up here on this Friday morning as the gates are about to open here inside the Premier Center, getting ready for the first game of the day between St. Thomas and Oral Roberts coming up here at noon. Email came in earlier. Let's get a couple in before we do what to watch. This from the Red Hawks have announced that for 5 games this summer, they are going to be known as the Fargo Wood Chippers. The team will wear special black and yellow wood chippers jerseys and caps for the games, and a host of custom wood chippers and Midwest-themed merchandise available in the Redhawks team store. So the wood chippers will make their debut on Friday, June the 12th against the Winnipeg Goldeyes, and then again on July 10th, the 22nd, the 11th of August, and the 29th. So the Fargo Wood Chippers, obviously in paying homage to the great Fargo movie, will be coming to a ball field near you at Newman Outdoor Field this upcoming summer. Interesting day to announce it when there's about 8 million other things going on, but apparently the Redhawks are going to be doing that this upcoming summer. Going back to the basketball attendance, email comes in. Dom, I've tried to enjoy basketball. It's just not my cup of tea. It's not worth spending a lot of time and money to attend a game I don't even enjoy all that much. I wonder how many people from Fargo simply don't enjoy the game nearly as much as football. I'm sure there are some. I don't think that accounts for, basically we had 30 people here yesterday, and it was a ton, all parents, especially on the women's game. The men, there was a smattering of fans, and maybe there'll be more here tomorrow. You hope to think so, as we were talking with Matt Larsen earlier in the show about that. We'll see, but initial feedback was not great in terms of fans that were here in attendance for the first 2 days. We'll see. I mean, St. Thomas didn't have a ton of people either, and I'm interested to see what the South Dakota turnout is for their 2 teams that are playing here, coming up back-to-back virtually at 2:30 and at 6 o'clock. Real quick, Cordell Wright, thanks for helping us out here today, doing photog and keeping us on the air. Eric, of course, back in studio, doing a great job as well. Been a lot of fun to be down here, and we'll see how long we're here. We're going to be here at least till tomorrow. We'll see if we're sticking here till Sunday, but back on Monday to recap the weekend. And with that, we got about, as Eric was giving me about 18 graphics, we got about a full 3.5 minutes to do what to watch. So let's do it before we get out of time here. All right, here we go. Let's start first. The Class A tournament resuming today in Jamestown. Now, they have the evening games, so that'll be tonight, 6:30 and 8:15 on WDAY. The consolation games, you can stream them on WDAY+. Meanwhile, the Class B resumes coming up here in just a couple hours in Minot. The first semifinal will be at 1 o'clock. All these games are available on WDAY. We're statewide today on WDAY. The second game at 2:45. Then we'll reverse it tomorrow night for the championships. We'll have the Class A title game at 5, the Class B title game at 8 o'clock on WDAY. If that's not enough basketball for you, we've got the EDC tournament going on. Those games being played at the Shack. Coverage begins on WDAY Plus at
2 o'clock today for the boys. Those are loser-out games. And then the semifinals coming up later tonight. Winners of those play for the EDC Championship coming up. That is tomorrow. Also tonight, we also have Minnesota Section Championship basketball going on in 6A and Class A for those games. They actually got moved because of the Cobbers playing at Memorial Auditorium. Those games are now being played at Moorhead High School. You can see those exclusively tonight on WDAY2. For those games tonight, the first one in the 6A championship, Hillcrest will take on Breckenridge. They'll be followed by DGF and Perham at 8 o'clock. Those games at Moorhead High on WDAY2. We've also got state swimming coming up tonight and tomorrow in West Fargo. You can stream all of that from the Hulbert Aquatic Center. That's on WDAY Plus if you want to see state swimming and diving. Okay, so that's that. Now let's do our Friday What to Watch and what we got just coming up today, which is no shortage of things I just mentioned. Mentioned Omaha UND hockey tonight, 6 o'clock on Midco. The Wild play tonight at 9 o'clock. And we got the United States in the World Cup against Brazil. The World Baseball Classic at 7 o'clock. And again, of course, tomorrow, a full day of activity as well. You can see all the games there. Wilder in action as well. And NASCAR just for Eric and my dad. Don't forget about that. So that'll wrap things up here on a busy Friday show. Our thanks to the tripping Ryan Powell, to Jeff Kolpack, to Matt Larsen, and Phil Esten. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch it back on WDAY Plus. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you back on Monday.